Here are two bookmarks which I developed using the actual material that the scribes used thousands of years ago at the beginning of the biblical age. The materials are papyrus and parchment. Papyrus here, hope you can see the picture, is a plant of which the pith is made into what's called in Greek hartis, a piece of material for writing. The word chart comes from that. The Egyptians wrote their sacred scriptures on hartis, pieces of papyrus, not the plant, and the writing was called hieroglyphic, or priestly writing. The papyrus roll, or vivilion, which we get the word Bible, viblios, and the sheets were used also in everyday communications such as letters, bills of lading, and eventually the Bible. The papyrus plant, number 3843.1 in our lexical concordance, is mentioned in Exodus 2:3. And hartis, number 5489, is mentioned in 2 John 1:12 of John not wanting to write on hartis and ink. Some of the oldest existing scripture fragments we have are on papyrus, such as the John Ryland papyrus fragments. A trove of papyrus writings were found in Oxyrhynchus, Egypt, and contain many fragments and so forth. Here's a book that uses these fragments and ties them into the Greek biblical words by cross-referencing them to every day usage of Greek words at the time of Christ. Its title is The Vocabulary of the Greek New Testament by Moulton and Milligan from the Papyri and other non-literary sources. Inside the book, it will look at the word here, hartis, a paper made from the pith of the papyrus plant by a process described by Pliny. And then it mentions the word hartis occurs only once in the New Testament, in 2 John, as I mentioned. But then there's other Greek sentences here that it mentions in the time of Christ, how that word was used, where payment is made. It's on hartis, and 4 pieces of hartis. I bought 2 hartis of papyrus and so forth. Now, I think the book is out of print, but it's not. I don't use it very much, but I'm just letting you know that somebody did actually publish a book with all these fragments found at Oxyrhynchus in basically a trash area, and put them into a book form. Well, eventually, papyrus was supplanted by parchment, and papyrus production came to an end soon after the Bible was complete. Here's a piece of parchment. It wasn't until recently that an Egyptian engineer took the papyrus plant from the Sudan and planted them on an island in the river Nile near Cairo for the purpose of developing papyrus hieroglyphic reproductions for sale to tourists. I purchased hundreds of sheets of this papyrus from Egypt and have handwritten the Greek alphabet on them in upper and lowercase Greek along with the pronunciation help. But around the time of Paul's ministry, the parchment, again, the piece here, or membrana, number 3200 in the lexical concordance in Greek, production took place which eventually supplanted papyrus parchment. It's from the animal skin and generally of the bovine, cow, sheep, goat, and deerskin families. The skins were processed and then split into thin sheets, which were then cut for size and made into a codex, or a book with sheets, rather than rolled papyrus, although parchment was also rolled, as can be seen in the modern Torah scrolls. In fact, the parchment here that I have for the bookmarks is from a company that supplies parchment for Torah scrolls, and the trimmed pieces are ideal for the bookmarks which I produce. Parchment Our membrana, number 3200, was mentioned by Paul in 2 Timothy 4:13, where Paul asked Timothy to bring the parchments with him. The writing method I have used on both bookmarks is to use a fountain pen with permanent ink, generally platinum permanent black from Japan. Writing on the papyrus is more difficult than the writing on parchment, as writing on papyrus is like writing on corn stalks, and the ink can run up the veins if the ink is too thin. Not so with parchment, because it's very smooth. And it's adaptable to illumination, which was developed in the Middle Ages with pictures of various sacred images at the beginning of books and chapters. But the early sacred scriptures were pretty much void of such ornamentations, and in fact the Greek writings didn't even have word spacing or accent marks. Both were developed later. I enjoy inscribing the bookmarks, and I hope that you would enjoy having such bookmarks to show to your friends what the original scriptures were written upon. God bless.